Hey YouTube, Kira Qualia here, bringing you all my Cardfight Vanguard budget Aqua Force deck profile for post Team Dragon's Vanity. Wanted to do a budget version of the Aqua Force deck before I begin focus on the last card Revan deck of the booster set. It's a really awesome deck. The focus of the deck is to use the rested units that you rest with your own rear guards to benefit from either retiring your opponent's rear guards or powering up your own rear guards for multiple attacks you can do with Imaginary Gift Excel 2, and getting that draw power consistency for all your units as well definitely does come in handy. It's a very budget friendly deck. As stated before, you could probably build the entire deck for under $10, which definitely helps for people also looking to look into Aqua Force to see if it's the type of clan for them to build off of, since it is a very combo based clan as well, but also a very fun deck like I said before. So let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. So for the grade 3s, I'm running 4 Fort Vessel Dragon, being a backup to last card Revan with its rear guard ability. You could still use it for the Imaginary Gift Excel marker, which most of the time with this deck I do like to go for Imaginary Gift Excel 2 to get the draw power, but with it you can also focus on, weakening your opponent's Vanguard. When placed on the Vanguard circle, you can counterblast 1 and your opponent's Vanguard gets minus 5,000 power until end of turn, so it makes for a multiple ride type of Vanguard. Also, you always want to ride into this unit so your opponent's Vanguard will get minus 5, then you'll be able to hit your opponent's Vanguard with plenty of your rear guards as well before any trigger amounts are taken into account also. So with this, if you go up against a 13k base Vanguard and minus that 5,000 power, putting it at 8k power, even your grade 1 units that we ride in the deck can hit your opponent's Vanguard before trigger amounts are applied as well, which definitely does help for the overall pressure you can do against your opponent, and definitely does come in handy. The rest effect was only for, resting if you have 4 or more rear guards. Your opponent's in your Vanguard is last card Revan. This unit cannot be retired, and it gets plus 5,000. It was more of a, bonus benefit effect ability than the actual playstyle of this card, making it a, ride target for the counterblast, and we don't really use counterblast for much else in the deck at all, so the full focus for Fort Vessel Dragon can be all of the counterblasts for its own ability. And then for the backup grade 3, focusing on Sharp Split Dragon for retire power. When it attacks a Vanguard, rest 2 rear guards, choose one of your opponent's rear guards and retire it. So with this card, when it attacks for just the cost of resting 2 of your rear guards, you're able to hit your opponent for retiring some of their rear guards by choosing one of theirs. It doesn't even have to be in the front row or the back row. It could just be any one of them. You can take out an intercept, you name it. It just definitely does help for the overall pressure of getting rid of your opponent's units also. And it also has the Imaginary Gift Excel marker as well, which means you can focus this card as a ride target as well before building up into your Fort Vessel Dragon by riding your Sharp Split Dragon, then riding into Fort Vessel Dragon, having the additional Imaginary Gift Excel markers with each one as well. But with each one you can either ride the first target and get the minus power, or if you have the rear guards to rest, it's not like it's a retire effect. All you're doing is resting your rear guards, get that additional pressure by retiring your opponent's rear guards. I decided to stick with just the 8 grade 3s for this deck. I thought of some other additional numbers for the grade 3 units, but thought 8 was the perfect number just for more of a budget build, going off of more of the grade 2 and 1 rear guards for their abilities in the deck anyway. So that's it for the grade 3s. Moving on to the grade 2s, I'm running 4 Talwar Assault. With this one, it has a Vanguard only ability, but I do like it as a more pressure play for going second with the deck. When it attacks, if your opponent's Vanguard is grade 2, this unit gets drive +1 until end of battle. So it has to be specifically grade 2. It can't be grade 2 or less or grade 2 or greater. When it's grade 2 and you're going up against it, if your opponent has a 10k grade 2 and you attack with this unit, getting that drive +1 helps for that twin drive pressure you can do against your opponent, hopefully getting either a critical trigger to hit your opponent's Vanguard, or even a front trigger to power up all the other rear guards you may have on the field, going for that that early game pressure with this deck, especially so you can make use of your rear guards during the early game and then rest those rear guards if you go into cards like Sharp Split Dragon or your Fort Vessel Dragon to minus your opponent's rear guard. And when you minus the power with cards like Fort Vessel Dragon, you can even call cards like Talwar Assault, which only are really there for the one-time ride, and then just the additional grade 2 you can call to rear guard, making sure you can hit with this card for 8k power against your opponent's new 8k or 7k power, depending on the type of deck you're going up against. The only weakness it pops up into when you go up against decks like Bermuda Triangle, that can reach the potential higher power, but even then, if you call Yalwar Assault onto your Imaginary Gift Excel marker circle, or even boost it, it should still have enough power to go up against your opponent. But that Twin Drive early game can definitely help for the pressure plays you want to go for against your opponent also. And also for the additional grade 2, I am running 4 Marine General of Headseas Thanasis. With this one on Vanguard or rear, once per turn, rest one of your rear guards, and this one gets plus 5,000 until end of turn. So just with this pressure overall early game as well, if you call multiple rear guards and then have Talwar Assault, just able to give that Twin Drive power for the chance at a trigger. With the additional plus power of Thanasis, you can hit for some pretty big numbers for the overall pressure of this card, and just helps for it saves at once per turn, but still the 14k power if you have a Vanguard attacking alone and you rest a rear guard that's behind your Vanguard that doesn't additionally need that power. It definitely helps for the overall pressure play you can do with the deck and this card, going off of the ones we have for the plays in the deck. The only numbers I might adjust are with the next grade 2, depending on and pretty much player preference at that point. But for the final grade 2, I am running 3 Tier Knight Elmaria. With this one, it's just the 12k power, no shield, grade 2. I don't normally like to ride this one when we have our Talwar Assault as the preferred ride target in the deck, but on rearguard, when you put it on the Imaginary Gift Excel 2 marker, putting it at 17,000 power can definitely hit a good amount of your opponent's units, and also just as the added plus power, 12k usually comes in mind more than the additional plus 5 that a rested unit for Thanasis can do. So if you wanted to, you could try putting in a 4th copy of Tier Knight Elmaria, taking out one of the Thanasis and running 3 of this card in total in the deck, but that's player preference at that point. With your shields, you'll want to guard with more of the trigger units you get and some of the additional abilities that our grade 1s have for protecting your Vanguard that Elmaria can't provide since it doesn't have the shield unit anymore. But moving on now to the grade 1s. One of those grade 1s, which I was speaking of, is 4 Blue Wave Shield General Yorgos. On rear, when your Vanguard is attacked, if you have 4 or more rest rear guards, you may move this unit to guard circle. So even if you don't attack with them, you're able to manipulate them plenty enough with General of Headseas Thanasis and also your Sharp Split Dragon, making sure you have plenty of rest rear guards to rely on. And then just having this card, let's say, as one of the rear guards you rested with your Thanasis, being a 7k, it doesn't have the biggest power to go off of, but still being able to rely on it on your rear guard for the rest costs for those cards, and then being able to move it to the guard circle definitely helps for the overall defensive plays that you want to do during your opponent's turn, giving you more and more rear guards to use for the guard, especially from the back row circles as well, which is why I like to do with Yorgos. It's just the big cost to go for those cards, and comes in handy early game as well, as long as you have the rear guards and your opponent is only attacking into your Vanguard. And I also, just for the additional power units, I like to run 4 Storm Rider Panots. This one, along with Elmaria, like I said, doesn't have the shield power to go for, but when you lower your opponent's Vanguard's power, thanks to cards like Fort Vessel Dragon, you can still hit pretty big numbers along with this card against your opponent's Vanguard, and even still hit the numbers even if your opponent's Vanguard doesn't get minus, with this card being able to rely on the 9k power and the additional power plus of your Imaginary Gift Excel circles. And for the perfect guard, since we're going off of a budget option, I am running 4 Blue Ward Command. On guard, it's just a discard from your hand, and one of your units cannot be hit until end of battle. But on Vanguard, when placed, it's a draw a card and discard a card from your hand for consistency to make sure you get to the proper grade 1s, 2s, and 3s for your ride targets and just overall abilities on your rear guard circles. And for more of the front rearguard circles, I'm running 2 Frontal Sailor. When it stands in your front row, this unit gets +10 until end of turn. I like to place this card on the additional Excel marker circles. The when you restand it, it gets the +10,000 power. But also, you know, I don't really like to leave it for intercept options. I would prefer to put it in an Excel marker circle, most of the time avoided by my opponent in those circles as well, but still a good option to rely on. And then that is it for the grade 1s. Moving on to the grade 0s. Our starter for the booster pack is Blue Wave Recruit Costi, just being the generic when wrote upon draw a card, but will also be errated to have the new shield add when your opponent is at a grade 1 or greater, and then being able to get that option into your hand as well. And for the triggers, we're going off of the triggers we had in the set. So the 4 critical Supersonic Sailor and the 4 outride Draco Kid. For the pressure you can get early game, especially with the front triggers, and then just, you know, hitting hard for your opponent's damage with the Supersonic Sailors definitely does help. And for the draw trigger, going with the Pyrozine Communications Sea Otter Soldier. We're going for the more budget version for this deck profile, so none of the draw Sentinels for this deck. And for the heal trigger, the 4 Medical Officer of Rainbow Elixir, going for all the different rainbow effects for the deck. If we did have stand triggers in standard, it would definitely help this deck overall, just with being able to restand rear guards to use for the additional effects. But going off of the front trigger pressure still helps a lot for the deck. But that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoy the video. Like I said, definitely going to be working on the last card Revan deck profile, so look forward to that as well. But until then, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and Kira Qualia out.